I will ruin Eartha Kitt's career. No, stop. Leave me alone.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about Edgar Allan Poe and his rivalry with Rufus Griswold, one of America's first pieces of Okay, this is the 1800s and no one has any money. Like, people are like sweeping the streets and maybe you'd find like a crust of bacon and you'd eat it. Edgar Allan Poe, he's one of the great American poets, completely disrespected by everyone he ever came in contact with. He was always broke. And he came into contact with a fellow by the name of Rufus Griswold. So Griswold says to Poe, hey, I'm making this book called The Poets and Poetry of America. So give me some of your poems, and if I like them, I'll put them in. He knows if he puts him in the book, then Edgar Allan Poe will be likely to write a nice review. So Poe's like, okay, I'll give you some of my poems. So here's my poems. So the book gets published. Three of Poe's poems are printed. Griswold has printed 50 poems by one of his friends. 50! Poe's sitting there with the book in front of him, flipping through the book, flip, 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 flip. What the Are you serious? This sucker, hack, loser, ass has put me in the very back of this book. I have been hornswoggled by a Griswold comes to him. He's like, Edgar, what do you say that you write one of your wonderful reviews of my book? And I'll give you $100 for it. It's basically bribery. And Poe's like, sure, no problem. I'll take your money and write a review of this book, no problem. No problem, Rufus. So he writes the review. Now Griswold has been telling his friends, you know, Poe's gonna write this great review of my Then when he reads the review that he paid for, like, no one should read this, none of these poets are gonna be remembered except for me. It's a waste of time to even look at this thing. All this is crap. Edgar Allan Poe. He's like, really? I gave you money to write a review of a book of poetry that I put you in. You ass. Game on. So Poe starts hearing that Griswold is now is talking about him. So he goes on a tour of America and being like, hey, what's up, guys? You guys know about Rufus Griswold, right? The guy who wrote this book of poetry where he only put 3 of my poems in? You know about this guy? He's like a hack, just like a stereotypical basic bull ass. He has no talent at all. And if you give Griswold a hand job, he'll put 20 poems in his book. He is a vile, holographic piece of Holograms don't even exist yet, and I'm calling him a hologram. Very important note, the anthology, despite Poe talking all this is massively successful. Poe goes to his job at this magazine, and seated at his desk is Rufus Griswold, who's like, oh, I'm sorry. While you were gone, I got your job, and I'm getting paid more than you got paid, so I win. Good night. So Poe's like, what the f? He's like, what the f? His worst enemy has taken his job, and he's He goes on drinking binges. He's a drunk. He's a drunk. He's a lunatic. He's like wandering the streets. And right around that time, his wife dies. And Poe goes insane and starts taking laudanum, which is this like downer, but it makes you high as a kite. And that's it, man. Poe continues to spiral down into an oblivion. They find him laying in a gutter in Baltimore. They take him to a hospital where he dies. So, Poe's dead. Griswold wanted Poe to seem like a monster. So, Griswold proceeds to write these scathing biographies of Edgar Allan Poe. He was a drunk. He was always in debt. He sucked. He was awful. Forget about him. Forget about him. But everyone in America read this and they're like, wait, what? Drunk, crazy guy who wrote about ravens? Where can I get his book? That sounds awesome. It ended up making Edgar Allan Poe 50,000 times more famous, and he's considered to be one of the great writers of our time. Later in his life, Griswold comes down with tuberculosis and dies alone with a picture of Edgar Allan Poe on the wall, watching him. Like, look at you, man. Where are you now? Look at Griswold. All you people out there, I don't care what you do. What'd you do? Guess what? No one's gonna remember it. Your silly attempt to disguise a history show and like people getting drunk, it's failure. No one cares. No one's buying it, man. Forget it. We're all getting sucked into the void. Ugh.
Hi, I'm Nicole Byer, and today I'm gonna tell you a story about Catwoman versus Ladybird. Cheers. Oh, hold on, let me get drunk.
Whoa!
Okay, so the year is 1967, and Eartha Kitt has been cast as Catwoman on Batman, and it's like the first time that a black lady has been allowed to be a villain, but also like sexy. She'd be like, yes, I'm doing things that I think are good. And the Batman's like, no, bitch. Pow, boom, pig. And Catwoman would be like, no, stop, leave me alone.
Zing zang.
Zing zang.
Police brutality.
Eartha Kitt spends her off time trying to help at-risk youth. She is invited to the White House under this pretense that we're going to talk about like underprivileged youth and at-risk youth. So on January 18th, 1968, Eartha Kitt goes to the Women's Doer Lunch, which is insane because that name probably had to be approved by several different people. So then Ladybird Johnson, who is Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, she was like, look at us. We're nice white women having a luncheon to help those little dark youth. So anyway, Lyndon B comes into the luncheon and he is like, hello, hi, nice that you're here. Eartha Kitt goes, excuse me, Lyndon B Johnson, like, you're the president. What are you doing for like at-risk youth? And he says, yeah, good question. But I think it's better solved by mothers at home. So I'm gonna leave. Bye-bye. He leaves, and then Eartha Kitt was just like, so she gets up in front of all these people, and she was like, wait a minute, women doers? No, these are women don'ters. And she was like, listen, the reason why they take pot and get high in the streets is because you are taking them from their mothers and you're shipping them off to Vietnam. Ladybird was like, no, I have never had someone make me feel the way she's made me feel. I will ruin Eartha Kitt's career. I'm like genuinely upset that there's no pizza here.
What?
I've been wanting to order pizza. I'm the hungriest hippo here. Can someone please order, like, truly?
There'll be pizza there at the end. I promise.
I want pizza.
Okay, we were in the middle of the Ladybird luncheon.
Should I start over? So anyway, it all started at that moment. And then Bird Lady, Ladybird calls the CIA and she goes, yo, listen, this bitch, I don't like this bitch. You gotta find everything you can about her so I can send it to other people so she doesn't work. She's like a Batman villain. Ladybird is just like, destroy her! So the CIA was knocking on Eartha Kitt's friends' doors to interview ex-lovers. And they were like, hey, do you know Eartha Kitt? Is she bad? And then people were like, she liked to fuck. Like,
What? Is that what it was?
it was a lot of her sexual activity. So like, oh yeah, she bad, she like to fuck, she's nasty, she's promiscuous, she's like smoked weed or whatever. So the CIA came to the conclusion that she's a sadistic nymphomaniac. Ladybird said to the CIA, perfect. Is the pizza here?
Dun, dun, dun. Oh! Where's this from? Pizza City?
I don't know, but I'm happy with it. So anywho, Batman ends, and Eartha had all these contracts to do shows in clubs, but the CIA and the Secret Service are like telling club owners, being like, you can't hire Eartha Kitt. He's just like, you can't do it. So she went to one club and they were like, no. And she said, well, I'll go to another one. She went to another one, they were like, Sage taken. And she said, what is happening? Fucking Ladybird gets Eartha Kitt blacklisted from performing in the United States. So she goes to Europe because she can't work here no more. And 6 years later, Eartha gets a call from Seymour Hersh. He's like, yo, girl, I don't know if you know this. And she was like, tell me. There's a whole dossier where people are talking shit about you. They're talking about your like sexual productivity. That's not a word. And she, ooh, I tickled myself. And she was just like, oh, that sucks. Ladybird ruined my life. And then Broadway director Jeffrey Holder is like, yo, Eartha, be in my production at Timbuktu. And she says, okay. Beautiful black men carry her on stage. They're all like oiled up and they're just like, whoo, Eartha! And she like lands on stage and she goes, I'm back. And then everyone's like, yes, bitch! This is so exciting! Ah! Oh, shit! We glad you here! So she like fills the whole, it was great. Eartha Kitt was one of the greatest songstresses, actresses alive, and Ladybird like ruined her career. Like, it's just nuts. I love Eartha Kitt. Stay tuned for more drunk history. Say something.
On NBC.
That's wrong.
Hello, I'm Jen Kirkman with a fun pillow. And today we're going to talk about the historical story of Nast, a political cartoonist, versus Tweed. So, William Tweed is known as Boss Tweed, and he was in with this group of guys dubbed Tammany Hall. So it's all these f***ing white guy, fat guy, Congress f***s, and they're like, we're all in bed, in the sack, whatever, up the ass of Boss Tweed. And people loved him because at Christmas he gave out turkeys. Here's your turkey, poor people, and gifts. And they're like, oh, what's up? We love him. So Thomas Nast was a political cartoonist for Harper's Weekly. It wasn't like Garfield, it was like people take him seriously. Okay, so the New York Times in 1871, they're like, hey, we have hard f***ing evidence that Tweed is scamming money off the bonds in the city, and he is putting New York $90 million in debt. The thing is, nobody read it. So Nast is like, okay, whatevs. We don't need any more fat white guys coming into our house, stealing our money. So basically Nast, portrayed him as like a f***ing monster. His editor was like, what are you doing this week? And he's like, oh, I'm making Tweed look like a jowly, fat bag of money, under a top hat. So that was when Tweed That was, wait, sorry. Can I start again? Okay. That was, wait, hang on. So he's like, my constituents are poor. They don't care about the New York Times and all that bougie shit. My constituents don't know how to read. I'm not afraid of this article that blatantly exposes what I did. I'm just concerned with these goddamn pictures. Because the pictures can tell a story a lot faster than all this wordy word can. So he calls Nast and he's like, I'll give you 100 grand if you stop with the cartoon. And Nast goes, all right, hang on, let me think about it. So Nast gets back on the phone with Tweed. He goes, hey, I want $500,000 to stop the cartoon. And Tweed immediately is like, okay. And then Nast is like, dude, it's like, no, at no price will I fucking stop doing these cartoons. So what happens is, he does one more. It's all the Tammany Hall guys. They're all standing in a circle pointing at the next one, like, who stole the money? This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And for some reason, that just strikes a chord in people. This is the power of cartoons. They're like, oh wait, maybe he is stealing our fucking money. Oh my goodness, I can't, comply with this. So nobody voted for Tweed in the next election. And because of the cartoons, he goes to jail for fraud and all that shit. So this fat is in jail. He cannot handle it. He's like, I cannot be a prisoner. I'm Tweed. And then he escapes. So he gets to Spain. He tries to escape as a common sailor on a boat, which is even better than a non-common man in jail. But the dudes on the boat in Spain, they're like, hey, dude, this is not... Can I get a tissue? Can I get a tissue? Can I just do that before the finish?
Sam. Okay. God, jeez.
I want to say, the Spanish people were like, we know the cartoons. But Tweed was like, you can't judge me. Hey, get out of here, dude. Go back to America. Go back to jail. You did. It's fucking hot in here, and that's not a drunk thing. It's like fucking humid in here. It's hot. It's hot in here. I'm hot.
No, Jen, we're not getting the
Yes, we are. It's a pool. That's what people do in hot weather. Yes,
I'm not getting the
hot.
pool.
It's hot out. It's cool there. It's a pool. You know how to swim.
Stop!
It's
Stop! 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 I hate you. I hate you.
I love you. Sorry. I thought it would be fun. Okay, so after Boss Tweed went to jail, Harper's was like, thank you for your time. Still work here if you want, absolutely. But just draw like fun stuff. Let's not get so political. And he was like, no, I only want to draw what I believe in. No one can stop the arts. No one can stop drawing, dance, literature. That's the truth tellers in this world, are the f***ing artists. So if you have a kid that's an artist, don't be like, you're a loser. What are you doing with your life? They might someday take down the biggest man in town. Let artists be artists, unless they're like, they have nowhere to go and they're just lip syncing Madonna songs in the subway. But, even that, just see where it goes. Oh,
Today we're going to talk to you about the election of 1800. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, they were founding fathers of America, and they were also the best of friends. Adams was like, the Constitution, you can kind of bend that how you need to bend it. We can kind of work with this. And Jefferson was always like, Constitution is the Constitution, can't with that. But they loved each other until Adams became president. And immediately they started butting heads. John Adams was like, it's illegal to talk any about the president of the United States. And if you disagree with the federal government, you. And Jefferson was like, well, this is tyranny. That's a violation of a little something called freedom of speech. It all really reaches its head on the election of 1800, where these two lifelong friends were pitted against each other. Adams is like, if you elect Thomas Jefferson, here's what you're gonna get. Murder, all the time. Everybody's gonna be murdering each other. Incest. Your wives will lose their virtue, having sex with a lot of dudes, willy-nilly. So Jefferson starts talking a lot of about John Adams. We're talking about guys who like created this country. They were really like a bunch of 8th graders. He was like, you know what? Adams has prostitutes shipped in from overseas that he bangs all the time. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I feel like I keep seeing spit flying from my mouth.
No, I'm feeling it.
Am I spitting a lot?
I'm glad you're seeing it. Yeah.
That's good.
I'm in the splash zone.
So Jefferson went to the newspapers. He says, I want to tell you this John Adams is a hermaphrodite. He's got both man and woman sex organs. But this is like a published statement from Thomas Jefferson. Adams was like, okay, fine, you want to go that route? That's when the got really dirty. Adams says, oh, by the way, if you were thinking about voting for Jefferson, you shouldn't because he's dead.
It's a pretty good campaign.
It's a very good campaign.
Vote for me, I'm alive.
Yeah, even if you disagree with everything I say, at the very least, I'm alive.
Would you rather be accused of having a penis and a vagina or being dead?
I think being alive with a penis and vagina would be an amazing experience. And you're alive. Jefferson calls upon a hatchet man, James Callender, to publish newspaper articles about Adams. Adams... What was I gonna say here? Oh yeah, and he's gonna go to war with the French. That's what was published in the newspapers, and it's a lie. It's not true at all. America was like, I don't want to go to war with the French. That sounds terrible. And they elect Jefferson into office. Jefferson wins. Adams is like, you want to go with this loser? Fine. But before I leave, I'm going to appoint all of these people who violently oppose everything Jefferson stands for. And then he's like, I hope you like all these assholes. So, cut to 4 years down the line, and Jefferson's daughter dies. And Abigail Adams is like, look, I know we've had our differences with Jefferson, but I should pop him off a letter. She's like, look, I'm really, really sorry about your daughter, and it sucks that she is dead. Jefferson gets this letter, and he's like, I want to thank you so much for being so considerate about the death of my daughter. But while I've got your attention, I also want to tell you, you and your husband for being such assholes who up my presidency. This is how immature these great men of American history were. He can't even that should have been 2 separate letters. She's like, John, you know what? We're done with Thomas Jefferson. He's an ass. I tried to make it work with this guy, but him. So these two don't speak for a decade. Eventually, Benjamin Rush, who was another founding father, was like, look, John Adams, Johnny, I love you two guys. Why aren't you speaking anymore? Why can't we all be friends like we used to back in those glory days, those 1776 days that were so magical? And John Adams was like, look, I love Tommy Jeffs. I'm a big fan. I'll pop him off a letter. It's very general. It's like, hey, how you doing? I miss you. I hope you're all right. How's things going? Jefferson gets the letter. He's like, Adams, Johnny Ads. Good to hear from you, buddy. It's been 10 years. How's life? And then the letters start flowing, and before you know it, they start to connect on certain things. They start to connect on, I'm a little concerned about slavery. Thomas Jefferson was like, I'm anti-slavery, but I do have hundreds of slaves. What am I talking about?
Keep going. You got it.
It's weird how quickly alcohol makes you not realize what you said at all. So, by the end of their life, these two have exchanged 158 letters, and they're best friends again. Then it's 1826. John Adams is on his deathbed, and his last words are, independence forever, and also, Thomas Jefferson survives, because that guy's f***ing awesome. Little did he know that just a few hours prior, miles and miles away, Thomas Jefferson had also died. That day was July 4th, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which is crazy.
That's true friendship.
True friendship.
Cheers to friendship. You're my best friend.
We barely know each other. There.
Oh, we're best friends.